Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends anywhere in the world. Welcome to the Mango Monkey Show, where we talk about personal finance, buying your first home, and investing to achieve financial freedom. Today, I will share with you how I achieved my net wealth of more than $1 million. Well, the first step is to purchase your first home early. If you purchase your first home early, you will be able to make use of what is called financial leverage. This is where you use the bank's money to increase your personal wealth. Well, how does this work? If you have, let's say, $10,000 and you invest it in the share market where the value increases 10% per annum, in 1 year it will become $11,000. So you achieve $1,000 increase. Imagine if you have a home loan. If you have a home loan, let's say your property increases in value by only 5% per annum, and let's say your home value is $100,000 and the home loan is $90,000. In 1 year, your home will be $105,000 because it has gone up 5%. Your deposit initially was only $10,000, and if you look at your net wealth, you get to $15,000 by subtracting $105,000 by $90,000 home loan. So your net wealth has increased 50%, even though your home value has only gone up by 5%. In other words, you are using the bank's money to increase your wealth. Even though your home costed you $100,000 at the start of the investment period, you only put down 10% of it, which is $10,000, and the bank helped you with the 90%. So what this means is that the bigger the home loan, the more you borrow from the bank, the greater the financial leverage. Do you really need to borrow 90% of the property value? Well, the answer is you don't. It's up to you how much you want to borrow. Even if you borrow half of the property value, you still achieve more than if you were to invest the money by yourself without the help from the bank. But the key is to start early. Why do you need to start early? It's because the earlier you start, the bigger the impact. So for example, after 1 year, your net wealth becomes $15,000. Imagine what happens in the second year. Just to make it a little bit easy, let's assume in the second year, the property value becomes $110,000. So it grows a little bit less than 5% per annum in the second year. At that point, your net wealth will be $20,000. In other words, each year, you gain $5,000, and each year the bank does 90% of the work and you only do 10% of the work. Imagine what happens after 10 years. If you multiply 10 by 5,000, you get $50,000. Your net wealth will become $60,000. So you turn your $10,000 investment at the start of the 10-year period, and after 10 years it becomes $60,000. So you want the bank to do more work for you for a longer time period. That means you start early, and during your lifetime, the bank will work for you for longer compared to if you start when you are a bit older already. It's like growing your business. The longer your business has run, the more customers it has, the bigger the value of the business usually becomes. So that is the first method I employed to increase my personal net wealth and become where I am today. That was to purchase your first home that you live in. When you purchase your first home, you do not need to pay tax when you go and sell it. In addition, there are some special home loan programs designed for first home buyers, which mean you could get started with as little as 5% deposit. When you buy your next home, usually the bank does not want you to get the home loan with only 5% deposit. So it takes you a bit longer to get started and save up for your deposit. You also do not need to pay stamp duty if your property value is below a certain amount. At the moment it is $650,000 for a second-hand property and $800,000 for a brand new property. Remember, when you sell your home that you live in, you do not need to pay a single dollar to the tax man. There is no capital gains tax and there is no income tax. Zero, nothing. The second method I use to increase my net wealth is to invest money as soon as I reach a certain amount of net wealth. This can be investing in the share market or it can also be investing in a second property. After my net wealth became more than $500,000, what I did was I purchased a second property to invest in. I picked a threshold of $500,000 because I think for most people it is enough for them to last for a number of years. Obviously, it depends on how big your family is, whether you have a wife, whether you have children, and whether they go to private school. But $500,000 is quite a lot. I did not touch my $500,000, so I left that in a reasonably safe storage. What is a safe storage? Safe storage could be the value of your own home. For example, if your home is worth $700,000 and your home loan balance is only $200,000, that means you have got $500,000 locked away in a safe storage box. Or perhaps if you like to invest in the share market, if you invest that in an index fund, it is usually quite safe as well, because on average an index fund will go up in value. An index fund is very unlikely to go bankrupt because it gets adjusted, I believe, daily. The fund manager will monitor the market daily and make sure that it tracks the movements of the Australian top 200 or 300 companies. So when a company starts to have financial issue, the index fund manager should be selling that company. So it is extremely unlikely for an index fund to go down all the way to zero. It should be tracking the index, and the index will never go to zero. It's quite different to investing in a particular company. If you invest in a particular company, for example, if you choose Microsoft, a long time ago Microsoft was doing really well. Every single person in the world essentially used Microsoft for their computer, but now you have Apple. Another example is the Kodak filmmaker. Kodak was a very well-performing company many years ago, but now they become somewhat not relevant anymore. If you invest in a particular company, you will need to monitor that company on a daily basis or at least a yearly basis. But if you invest in an index fund, it's a set and forget solution. So as soon as I had $500,000 net wealth, I decided to invest in something else. I purchased a second property and I used more of the bank's money to my advantage. I am not a qualified financial advisor, so I can only share what I think works for me. It may not actually work for you. So when I invested into another investment property, I wanted to make sure that I have at least $500,000 net wealth locked away in a safe place. So in reality, when I bought my second property, I had to put a deposit. So I put down a 20% deposit. And what that meant was my net wealth was actually more than $500,000. So just to give you an example, my second property was $1 million purchase price, and I had 20% deposit. So that means I put down around $200,000. And in that example, my net wealth was $700,000. But I visualized it. So I visualized two different boxes. One box had $500,000 in it. Another box had $200,000 in it. And I made sure that the box that had $500,000 is a safe box and it's very unlikely to go down in value. And I'm not touching that box. This way, even if something really bad happens in the world, I'll still have that box that has $500,000 and that will last me for many years into the future. If I really need to, I can get rid of my second box. Even if the value has dropped, I don't really care about that too much. I'll still have my first box that has $500,000. Now, I am someone who doesn't like to budget. So what that means is that I have to place a bit of a limit to how much debt I have in my life. I like to live free. I don't like to worry about how much commitment I need to pay per month. So this is what I set as my limit. I said to myself that my debt should be no more than double the amount of net wealth that I have. So when I had $500,000, my maximum debt was $1 million. If you watch other YouTubers, they may have different strategies. There's really no best strategy that is applicable to every single person. It really depends on you. For me, I think double the amount of net wealth is a good limit that seems to work for me so far. This means you may not be able to grow your wealth the fastest way possible, but I think it is safe. It is still a bit faster than what some YouTubers recommend. For example, if you look at Dave Ramsey, he recommends you do not have a single investment debt and only have your owner-occupied home loan. For me, I do not differentiate between personal home loan and investment home loan. Basically, I want my total debt burden to be no more than double the amount of my net wealth. The final method I make sure I adhere to it is to have a bit of an emergency fund. What I want to aspire to is to have 6 months worth of emergency fund at all times. This means 6 months that covers my living expenses and also my mortgage and investment debt repayments. So for example, with a debt of $1 million, with the current interest rate of around 2%, the home loan repayment is roughly around $3,000 per month. That means 6 months worth of repayments is $18,000. Plus my living expenses at the moment is around $2,000. That means 6 months will be around $12,000. And when I add up the two together, I get to $30,000. So whenever possible, I want to have $30,000 in my bank account. This means if I do not have a single income in the next 6 months, I do not need to beg the bank for forgiveness because I have cash in my account. Within the 6 months period, there are many things I can do. For example, I can sell the investment property, I can sell my shares, I can get back on my feet. Okay, so let me know what you think, whether you agree with me or not, whether you prefer something a bit more aggressive. Do not forget to like and subscribe to me so that you can get notified as soon as I release another video.